Today I'm joined by Miccio, who has played in the National League North and South, so much more. And we're going to learn about his story today. So, Lewis, I welcome you to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. So, talk to us then about your upbringing in football, because I always like to start with that to learn a bit more about you as a person. So, talk to us about where you got brought up and how you got brought up.
Yeah. So in terms of my football journey, that started in New Zealand. I moved there when I was, I think, about 3 years old, and then straight into, I don't know what you call it, little kickers or something like that.
Okay. Like
When I was
grassroots?
like grassroots.
Okay.
When I was like 4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just loved it ever since. And sort of just played like age group football in New Zealand until about, I want to say 14, 15, probably about 14 years old, and then moved into like men's football in like the local leagues, and then moved back over to Australia.
So, before you started to get deeper into football and we learn more about your story, by the
Yeah,
age of 14, you were playing with men.
yeah, if I actually go back, I could have been 13. Now that I think about
Really?
it, yeah. So I mean, it helps having like family in and around the club. So
Yeah.
my dad, my uncle, they were all quite big parts of like the club. Whether they were like managers, assistant managers, or whatever it was. And yeah, they sort of gave me an opportunity, a chance to play with them. I was, ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old, I'd go and watch my dad play for that club. So I knew all the players, like I knew all the guys there from when I was a young kid. So they were all quite welcoming, and they'd known me for years. So yeah, I was playing with them. It wasn't like a great level or anything like that,
Yeah.
but it was men's football.
So what's football like over in New Zealand then? Because I know obviously in England it's the main sport. So in New Zealand, what's that like? Is it the main sport over there?
No, it's not the main like spectator sport,
Hmm.
but it is the main sort of like player participation
Okay.
sport. So like I think, I don't know the actual stats, but most people play football, but everyone loves rugby. Everyone just loves
Okay.
it there. Yeah, so like I even myself, I loved rugby when I was growing up. Yeah, massive All Blacks fan. They're best in the world. So having them, small country as well, having them
Yeah.
as the world champions of something, a team from New Zealand, they were like my idols growing up. So yeah, it's a bit strange. It's a bit of a strange one because it's not super, like football's not super popular, but a lot of people play it and follow it.
I've got to say though, I mean, I was just thinking here about obviously in the UK, your sole focus as a child would probably be football. But I
Yeah.
suppose if you're in New Zealand, when you play the rugby and you play the other sports that are more physical, you then gain a physical footballer. For example, like a Chris Wood, right? Am I right
Yeah.
in saying that the physicality from rugby would pass on to football?
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be some sort of correlation. Like, I'm sure most people in New Zealand follow rugby, or enjoy it, play it, know how to play it. They know the rules and everything. So someone like myself as well, I played every sport, including rugby. So yeah, I guess that in the early stages, early development, helped me develop my like physicality, because that's also like one thing with kids is how do you introduce the physical side of football, without, I guess, being too sort of throwing them in the deep end too much. A lot of kids sort of don't like it, but I guess having an interest in rugby, and having played a few games here and there, you sort of learn that physicality of it. So
I've got to say though, so by the age of 14, you're playing with men. How was that like from, I suppose, going literally 14 years of age, still a child? How would you adapt your body, your strength, your speed, everything to now playing against men? Because the whole game's completely different.
yeah, I don't know. It's weird looking back because I can't really remember it too well.
Mhm.
Um, but it was definitely intimidating, to begin with. But I always sort of found, well, I knew, as I said, it wasn't the best quality football or like the greatest league. There were some good players, but for the most part, technically, even though I was young, I was better than a lot of the men I was playing against. So I sort of went in with that confidence of, I'm good enough to be here. And also like to, even now, I like to test my strength against the bigger players, So it was kind of the same feeling then. Can I go shoulder to shoulder with a grown man and push him off the ball? That's what I would try and test my strength against them. So yeah.
And it's, in terms of like game time, how often were you playing? Because obviously you're probably seen as one of the lesser thought of people in terms of your age, but maybe not in terms of ability.
Yeah. So I remember my first season. So what I would do is I would play my age group in the mornings, and then I would come off the bench for the men's team in the evenings. But in my second year, when I would have been 14, turning 15, they set up a team, and there was about 4 or 5 of us, 14-year-olds, that would start and play every game. And we had, dotted throughout the team were men playing in the team, just so we had a fighting chance against, in the men's comp. So we had like, I think our goalkeeper, I think he was a lot older. I can't remember everyone exactly like the positions, but we had a few in that second year. I played sort of every game, every minute, but we had a few other players like my age who were sort of the more promising young players at the time. Yeah.
So then you joined Manly United in Australia. I know you played for a club before called Central Coast Mariners.
Mariners.
Mariners, okay.
Yeah.
And obviously that transfer, staying in Australia, did you ever feel a bit homesick? I know that Australia and New Zealand are pretty close. It looks like it is on a map. I don't know how far it is on a plane, but in terms of, the homesickness, you felt all right going to Australia?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was weird because obviously my family at the time, they stayed in New Zealand, and I moved over by myself, and I would have just turned 16. And even though I still have family in Australia, the Central Coast was still about an hour and a half drive from where my family were. So and I couldn't drive at the time, so it wasn't like I could see my extended family a lot. So as a young kid, it was tough. It was, especially at the beginning, it was very tough. But I really enjoyed it. I thrived sort of having my own freedom and making new friends, going to a new school, and that, sort of learning that new lifestyle, living on the beach. I loved it. And then it was probably about a year and a half later, my family moved back to Australia as well. So I wasn't away too long. But yeah, initially it was very tough, but I learned quickly and had to sort of fend for myself, which you do learn very, very fast especially when you're that age. So that was good. It was a good time.
So when you were obviously in Australia, I think that if you were playing as a professional in Australia, you'd be living that kind of really cool life. You mentioned the beach, you mentioned, I suppose, a good lifestyle. But in terms of you being so young early in your career, playing in, I suppose, another country, a hot country, what is Australian football like for you footballers?
What was the life like?
Yeah, what's the life like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was playing in the youth team. So there, I think it was under 21s. That's kind of the equivalent of the 23s over here, or the 20, the 21s over here. But I was still in school initially. So I was 16 when I joined into that team. So it was quite full on. I would miss a lot of school, and I'd be turning up halfway through the day at school, and I'd miss a lot, and I'd try to catch up on my studies, and so that would take a lot of my time. But once I finished school, and it was a good lifestyle, a lot of free time, a lot of nice days, obviously. So that season goes over the summer, so it's hot training, hot games, that's quite tough. But then, you get to relax on the beach afterwards. So it was lovely. Yeah.
Well, in terms of playing in that heat, obviously in the UK, don't really get that. Maybe you might have it in the first few weeks or the end of the season,
Yeah.
but to play there constantly, and then obviously later on you move to the UK, you must have felt like our heat and our weather is an absolute breeze.
Yeah, I don't know. It can get quite warm here. Deceptively warm. But yeah, it doesn't last long. Like it's a couple of weeks, a year. So.
Yeah, I thought it was colder. No, it was hotter was it January, and then it was really cold in the summer or something like that. This summer that went last was very, very cold. But yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's right.
Go on.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's definitely been like an easy transition in terms of the weather, because you don't get those. Well, you do get some hot days over here, but yeah, it's few and far between throughout the season.
I suppose maybe going from England to Australia or New Zealand or places where it's hot, it would probably be a bit of a harder task to achieve. But so then you joined in Kidderminster in England. Obviously, I know that team quite well. I think it's pretty local to me. So in terms of you then coming to England, did you have any sort of affiliation here before, or was it just a move across the entire world?
Yeah, it was a move across the entire world. There was
Wow.
there was nothing pre-planned or anything like that. It was a bit silly when I look back. I'd always sort of planned to end up in Belgium or Holland or like a European country. I'd never really looked at England as being a possibility.
Because it's too cold or something?
No, I don't actually know why. I just didn't really think it was. I thought, I think I didn't really back my ability enough, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, to be completely honest. But when I came over here, so initially I came over here with my dad, and I was just going to base myself out of London, and then if I had a trial in Belgium, I'd just fly over because it's cheap airfares. But yeah, so I came to England initially for that first week, made a few contacts, and a lot of people helped me out, getting me trials at different clubs. And I didn't think that it was possible as I said, but after that first week being in England, I went, hang on a second, this is where I want to be. This is the place to play football. So I ended up staying and haven't looked back.
I suppose, though, you are a left back, so we actually didn't get to the story of how you became a left back. Well, I suppose how? How did you become a left back?
I don't know. I don't know. When I was young, I was always a striker, as they all say.
I was waiting for that, by the way.
Yeah. And then I think everyone was a striker as well at that time. So being left-footed, I just moved to the left wing, and then I don't actually know how it came about, but I think it's just a natural progression. You just move further back.
Yeah, I suppose that's what a lot of the players happen, right? A lot of them do that.
Yeah. I've played a lot at centre back as well, so I've kind of just started off at striker and just moved all the way back.
So that season though I think it was 1920, so it would have been the back end of it could have been a bit ruined by COVID. Supposedly the next season would have been. Can you talk us through that? When did that actually happen? Was it with Kidderminster or was it with your next club, Solihull Moors?
What the COVID lockdown was with Kidderminster. So it was very unfortunate. It's weird because I did sign at Kidderminster, but I never played, and I wasn't there long. I signed at the very end of January, and was then waiting for. I think it ended up being about 6 weeks for my international clearance to come through. And then I believe the captain at the time, Sam Austin, who's now, I think he's at Notts County, very good player. He was playing at left back at the time. So, I was trying to get his spot, and he's a very good player. He was in great form at the time. And he got selected for the England C team, so he was going to be going away with them, and I was going to make my debut. Finally, I'd been there for so long, and for 6-7 weeks, and was sort of waiting for this international clearance, and that's when the COVID lockdown hit, and all the leagues stopped. So it was quite unfortunate timing. And yeah, never didn't re-sign at Kidderminster, and that was partly the manager that signed me at Kidderminster ended up going to Solihull, and he brought me along with him. So that's sort of the reason why I didn't stay there. But yeah, it was quite unfortunate with the whole COVID, stopping the season. But yeah, that's kind of how my time went there. Not the greatest.
Yeah, well, I know for a lot of the Premier League, though, there was talk about them cancelling the season. But I suppose the lower down you go, without being disrespectful, the less you're thought about in terms of the people that make the decision. So, was there ever any talk of the season being cancelled? Because ultimately, you finished 16th with 38 points. So, that's an average season in the league.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I think that year, 1920, I think that season was cancelled because of the league.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I honestly can't remember.
It feels like a long time ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot has happened.
It has. A lot has happened. So as you can tell, he just lagged out there. So we're gonna have to resume. Sorry, not restart. So talk to us then about the time that you joined Solihull Moors, which was the next club. You just mentioned that the manager at Kidderminster sort of came with you. So how did that work out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very thankful to Jimmy Shan. He brought me along to Solihull. He gave me an opportunity. It was just unfortunate with my time there, just with little injuries here and there. I sort of couldn't stay fit. I don't know whether it was the full-time aspect of it, but just kept getting these little injuries at the wrong times, and then unfortunately he ended up losing his job, which didn't help me either. Obviously being his player that he's brought in, so didn't quite like get along with the manager that came in. I wasn't his type of player, being still quite young at the time and everything like that. But that was a really good experience playing in a full-time environment. Great lads, and I'm still in touch with a couple of them today, and good friends with a lot of them. So
that season seems to be really weird because obviously I was doing the research for this and I followed Barnet, but not heavily back then. So Barnet finished second from bottom but didn't get relegated. And the side that finished bottom, Dover Athletic, played 0 games but remained in the National League the following season. So what on earth? Do you remember what happened there? That's really strange.
Yeah, I can't. Again, it's I can't place it, and I'm getting confused maybe with the two seasons. But I think it was because they still did lockdowns and everything that during that season, and I think they once again sort of cancelled the season, if I remember correctly. I've got a few friends who played in the National League South that year, and from what I remember, they told me is that the season didn't finish for the leagues below. So I think that's why your teams like Dover and Barnet didn't go down. But I think they knew that as well at the time, and they sort of, I don't know. I don't think it was really concerned to them how the season went, because they knew that there wasn't going to be any relegation.
I mean, that would have been so monumental because obviously Barnet are doing so well this season. They are first in the National League, and who are even Dover Athletic. So it's it's a very weird season for those two teams where it's really cost them in terms of the future. A lot of people may not know, but in terms of contracts in National League and things like that, there's not really such a thing. I mean, you obviously get paid full time, but I believe you can you get approached at any time? Is that correct?
No. So if you sign a non-contract,
Yeah,
then yes. But I would say in the National League now, it's mostly contracted players.
So it's changing. It's changing.
Yeah, I think the National League is basically a full-time professional league now.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many teams, maybe just one that they're not full-time, but they would still contract their players. And then as opposed to the leagues below, I think it's a bit of a mix, depending on the team as well. So, yeah.
But also, in terms of, we're going to talk about your story and continue that in a second. But
Mm.
essentially, every season you've joined a new team. So what I'm trying to get at is the stability in non-league is not quite there just yet.
Yeah, yeah. I think in my sort of experience of it, I think I'm quite a ambitious person. If
Hmm.
it's not, if something isn't helping me get towards my goal, then I'm gonna look elsewhere. And I've been on contract at every club I've been at. I don't think I was at Kidderminster actually, but and it's in terms of, it's not too difficult to get out of it if it's mutually beneficial. So in terms of my experience, it's it's been there is stability if you're on contract, but it's as I said, it's not too difficult to get out of it if it benefits both the player and the club.
So the next 2 seasons for you, were they sort of trying to re-find yourself? Because I know that you went out on loan to Stourbridge in 2021. That was a loan.
Yeah. So that was a really strange one because I was at Solihull, I wasn't playing, needed games. I went there, played once, and then the November lockdown happened, and that whole league got cancelled. So I signed a 1 month loan. They went into lockdown for a month, so I played one game and then wasn't able to play again. So yeah,
It's simple as that. That's how quickly you surely went to that club.
really great timing as well. So yeah,
Okay.
but
Yeah, I mean, obviously with COVID though, how many lockdowns do we have? 2 or 3, right?
yeah.
But they went on forever, and then obviously we were promised to come out of the lockdown, and then no, all of a sudden you're back in the lockdown. It was a weird time. I mean, if only I started the podcast, then I probably could have had Ronaldo on. But there we go. Anyway,
Yeah.
Bedford Town came up next, the following
Yes.
campaign. Could you
Yeah.
talk to us about that then?
Yeah. That was. I mean, it came about. It was weird how it came about. Really, just as I said, like I think I'd been in England at that stage close to a year and a half, and I played 2 games of football. It wasn't. I needed to play. I needed to sort of make a name for myself or find a foothold.
Yeah.
And Bedford, it wasn't ideal in terms of the league I wanted to play in, but at the time, I guess you could kind of call him my agent at the time, someone who was helping me, ghosted me, didn't speak to me, didn't answer my calls, didn't reply to text messages, and he was my only sort of contact in the UK. So I had to sort of find a club for myself, not knowing anyone. And it was one of those ones where, as a friend of a friend of a friend put me in touch, knew the manager or something like that, and went there, and that's how it sort of came about. And had a really good season there. Loved it, loved the club, and just had a great time. Yeah.
So obviously, we're going to go through the teams even more. St Albans, Braintree, etc., even a trophy in there as well. But just looking into the future, you're 26 years old. Obviously, every player wants to reach the highest level that they possibly can. So, do you see yourself in 3, 4, 5 years playing abroad? I mean, you mentioned Belgium before. And secondly, where would you sort of put yourself in terms of, by the end of my career, I would have, perhaps like to play in this league. Of course, you're going to say the Premier League, but let's try and keep it down to a T. Without being disrespectful, by the way, but I couldn't really.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's right. That's right. I think in terms of where I think I'm at and what I could still achieve, I still think there's more. I can still get more out of my career. I'm still ambitious to play as high level as possible, to play for as good a football as possible as well. In terms of playing abroad, I think I'd like to eventually play in Australia again. Go back, with the family and everything like that. In terms of a league, I couldn't really tell you. There's too many. I don't want to pigeonhole anything. I'm kind of open to as good as they come, really. being realistic, obviously the Premier League's probably a bit out of reach, but just something where it's full-time professional. Yeah.
Well,
That's kind of,
I suppose if it wasn't full time, that'd be taking a backward step in your career, wouldn't it?
yeah, a little bit. I mean, sideways or backwards. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
depending on where it is, obviously. But
And also just a note for those people who are listening. The Australian League doesn't have any promotions or relegations. So I suppose if you're in the top league, you're fine. But if you're in the bottom league and you want to try and work your way up, it's a bit difficult.
yeah,
By the
yeah,
way, how would they ever change that? Who, what weird
yeah,
idea? Isn't that a weird idea?
yeah. It is weird. I think they're trying to change it.
Hmm.
So in Australia, it's similar to the lower leagues in England in terms of how it's regionalised. Obviously, the travel in Australia would be ridiculous if it were all one league. So you've got your different states, and they've got their leagues, and there's promotion and relegation within those leagues, but there's no promotion into the A League, which is the top division.
Mm-hmm.
But they are trying to set up a B League, which would be quite healthy for Australian football.
And then what came up next was Oxford City in the National League South. You got 78 points, which is a lot in 46 games, 33 games played. So that season, from the outside looking in, looked like a really positive season in terms of game time, and in terms of 78 points is some amount of points.
Yeah, I mean, I know at Bedford it was a lower league, but we got a lot more points than that as well, and direct promotion. So that, coming from a successful period at Bedford, that is how I sort of made that move to Oxford. And then, it was a bit of a shaky start there at Oxford, but came into form, came into the team and kept my place. Obviously, we got promoted as well through the playoffs, which was unreal experience. A different one to being at Bedford, because Bedford was, obviously, we won the league at Bedford, and we didn't have the stress or the pressure of the playoff games. But it was, really, really good experience at Oxford, playing on, I think it was BT or TNT at the time, I can't remember, playing live. So, everyone, all my family in Australia could watch it, and everyone I know here was tuning in, and thankfully it went in our favour at the time. So it was awesome.
So we can mention the semi-finals really quickly. So you played Worthing, you played all the 90 minutes, 1-0 win, clean sheet. I mean, going into the game, would you have expected to win?
Yeah, I was confident. Like, I think, it was a interesting and unique feeling. I think, like, I never went into any game thinking that we wouldn't lose or we would draw. I thought, every game I was going in like, we're winning this game.
And then obviously the final came 4-0 against St Albans, and now St Albans again. We speak about downward spirals there at the bottom, near enough of the league that they're currently in. Is it the South? Yes, it is. And then obviously played 90 minutes again. Talk to us about the coming into the game. Away from the result, what were the feelings like going into such a big game that could really make or break your career?
Yeah. Oh, I was so nervous. I think if you weren't nervous, there's something wrong with you, because
I was waiting for you to say that, because I was about to pop in and say the exact same thing.
Yeah. I mean, even if you've played at like a higher level or something like that, it's still really, it's an important game, and it was a sold out stadium. I know it's not many people, but for Oxford it was sold out. You're on TV, you don't want to make a fool of yourself. I think that was like the main motivator. And then I just wanted to win, just wanted to get promoted into the National League, where I felt like at Solihull I didn't really take my chance at Solihull, so I wanted that sort of redemption, and I wanted to play National League, and just everything that I dreamed the night before that game just came true.
And within the space of a year, well, it's been about a year. So let's just round this up then in terms of what's happened in this last year. So 23-24, you played 13 games before you left in January. So, as a player, for the player leaving or joining a new club in January, what goes through your mind then in that first half of the season? Were you openly looking to leave?
No, no, no. I wasn't. I was, as I said, I still look back at my time at Oxford, really fond memories, and that season is included. Playing in the National League, I really enjoyed it. It was just I got injured. I was out for about 2 or 3 weeks, and at that same time, there was about 8 or 9 of us that were also injured. So naturally, as you do, you bring in players to fill the gaps that there are injuries in. And once I came back from fitness, I just wasn't in favour and wasn't playing. And I ended up deciding to leave. I still, at the time, felt a little bit pressured to leave. I think I made the right decision, but at the time, I did feel a bit of pressure to go and get games and play football. It wasn't a good look, I guess you could say, not playing in a team that is bound to get relegated, which they were at Oxford. They were sort of looking like that was going to happen, and it did eventually. So I think it was one of those, like, just go out and play, and that's how you're going to get noticed if you're playing games. So yeah.
So to get forced out by a club, then what is that like for the player? You're getting told that you could lose your job. Right? It's football. It's your job. It's your life. So to get told that by the club, I know it would have been hurtful because 4 or 5 weeks before you were the favourable pick at that position.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I say like pressured to leave, I don't really mean it to be from Oxford. It was more just from like other outside sources, like whether it was family or agents or whatever it is, like to go and play football. But I think it still was not like hurtful or anything like that, but to not be playing for a club that I was quite passionate for, obviously that was a bit disheartening, and which made my decision to leave a tough one. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you got 3 promotions in 3 seasons, though. That's quite something. So let's talk about the next club, Braintree, 23-24. National League South, 18 games, and you reached the playoffs.
Yeah. As I said, like, I felt pressure to leave Oxford, but I believe I made the right decision, leaving to go to Braintree, who, we were just on fire. It was I think we lost my first 3 games, and I was thinking, oh no, what have I come to here? But then after that, I don't think we lost for like another 15, or we went on this crazy run, and that continued into the playoffs, and yeah, it was a great time, really good, experience to, I mean, just doing it again, really. I'd just done it the season before,
Yeah.
and I had loved every minute of it, and then I got to do it again, which was awesome.
So let me just read out what happened then. So in the quarters, you played Bath 1-0 after extra time, winning that game, of course. You played 1 minute. I suppose going into these games, playing 1 minute in that game would have been somewhat disappointing, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was. I think it was so. We had a really good team at Braintree, and we could have played anyone, and it would have been the same outcome. And it was just tough because the team that went into the playoffs in form, I just wasn't involved in that. So, but I think the faith of the manager at the time to sort of rely on me to bring me on in those like desperate minutes of a game. And a lot of managers don't have that trust in some of their players. So I'm thankful to even appear, and yeah. So like, I was just thankful to I remember that game because it was obviously after extra time, really stressful. So I'm just thankful that the manager had that faith and to bring me on and just see out the game. I think it was like 6 or 7 minutes of added time as well. So yeah, it was really, really stressful period, just heading balls out of the box. So yeah.
And then the next game was against Chelmsford in a 2-3 after extra time win, and you played half an hour. So you're getting more game time in those games. Did you come on as a substitute, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was that was wild. We were winning 2-0 with about 5 minutes of normal time left, and I think they scored in like the 85th minute to make it 2-1, and then that's when I got told that I was coming on. I think I came on again in like the 89th minute, and they scored straight away to make it 2-2, and then obviously played the extra time as well. And that was just the atmosphere was so, like, the rivalry between Braintree and Chelmsford it's one of the biggest derbies in non-league for sure. So it was quite a hostile environment. So really good to beat them at their place. Yeah.
You know when you get told you're coming on, is it literally just the manager who turns around and says, "You're coming on, you're coming on, go and get warmed up"? Is it literally as easy as that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you sort of out warming up and trying to be ready for when you might get the call. It's never guaranteed.
Do you put yourself in the manager's eye line? Because sometimes they'll be standing at the corner, and then you might just want to, go past them a tiny bit more. Is that what you sort
Yeah.
of do?
No, I mean, I guess some players could do that. Not personally. I just stay out, and warm up basically the whole second half, just because in the event of coming on, you want to be ready. You want to try and be up to speed in the game. It's so difficult coming on as a sub, and I don't really enjoy it because of how tough it is. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But yeah, they just shout your name, and then you come straight over and get ready to go on.
So the final then was another really close game, 3-4 against Worthing. 61 minutes you played, 108th minute goal in a cup final.
Yeah, crazy game, because I mean, obviously all three games went to extra time, which is just unheard of to win it as well, to win every game. So yeah, crazy game. In unfortunate circumstances, I came on. Obviously, the player playing ahead of me on the day got injured. But yeah, it was a great opportunity for me to come in and help the team in a massive game for the club. And I thought I did all right. I kind of hurt my knee during the week. I wasn't 100% fit for that game. So I was a bit nervous going into it, and just wanted to have a decent game and not be at fault for any goals or anything like that. So yeah, no, really, really good result.
And then, so at the start of this season, then you joined St Albans, who are another local team. How did you decide to leave Braintree then? Because obviously it ended on another high.
Yeah, that one there, weird scenario, really. I think they were going into full time, obviously getting promoted, and it's I was traveling 2.5 to 3 hours on some days to Braintree, so I didn't quite fancy doing that every day. Which is, I would probably say, the biggest reason for not rejoining. I don't think they wanted to re-sign me anyway. I think they only re-signed one player for the following season anyway. So, all 17, 18 of us got told that we weren't wanted, really. So it was again mutual agreement, really, to not stay there. I didn't particularly fancy doing that traveling, and I don't know if they wanted to keep me on. So in terms of joining St Albans, there was a few clubs that were interested. Obviously, 2 promotions in 2 years is in the National League South is you'll have most clubs wanting your name. So yeah, St Albans, it's not too far away from me, and a club with great fan base, and in terms of their history in the league, they're always up there. So that was my reasoning of joining them.
And then obviously before you left, and we'll talk about that in a short space of time. But in terms of the season going into St Albans, you mentioned that they're usually at the top. I mean, this season they haven't been at the top. So what's been going on behind the scenes there to have kind of slipped through the ranks a tiny bit?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I couldn't tell you. I've sort of been there. When did I leave? A couple of weeks ago now. So what's that?
Yeah.
End of end of January. So I've seen a lot there, and I couldn't tell you honestly. Most games they dominate. Especially earlier in the season, it would be 70% possession, like maybe more. Just no goals. Just one of those scenarios where struggle to score, too easy to concede, and just not really hurting teams enough. But in terms of the football that is played there, and the chance creation, it is a mystery how they're down there. It's a well-run club, good players, and it's just, I couldn't tell you.
And obviously yesterday, they played St Albans, right?
Yeah. So where I'm at now, Slough.
Yeah.
Had St Albans last night.
And what was that like?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't watch it really. It was just like so tense, the game. St Albans, to be fair, they were the better team on the night, and they came away with the win. But it was in my sort of deal. I would, not transfer because there was no money involved, but in terms of my agreement to leave, I wasn't allowed to play against St Albans. So
really,
yeah.
What, did it end in a really bad way or something?
No. I just don't think they wanted me to.
You were too good for them. That's what it was, wasn't it?
No, I don't know. I think for them in the position they're in, they can't take any chances, and having a former player score or have a good game or whatever it is against them, to maybe that might hurt their chance of staying in the league.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard something like that. That's really quite cool. I've never heard of something like that before.
Yeah, no, me either, to be fair. I think I've only recently heard of it with one other player, but yeah.
Okay. I try and keep my eyes everywhere, and I don't exactly ask for people to remember specific games. However, for me, it's quite cool to have a few of the people that I've interviewed in the same league. So I know that you played, or no, you wouldn't have played actually. No, you wouldn't have done, but you're playing Adam Thompson for Enfield Town soon. I was going to say, but you obviously joined in January. Hopefully, I'll come down to that game. That'd be quite a cool game to come down to. But obviously, Enfield are sort of around you lot this season. So the score that you played them, well, when Slough played them last time, it was the third game in, and you lost. No, you won 1-6. That's quite a big score.
Oh wow!
But I know Enfield aren't doing particularly well this season. I know Adam said to me on the podcast the other week that it's definitely hard times right there.
Yeah, I mean, they're down there as well. I think they're fourth from bottom, like they're just in the relegation zone, but they've picked up form recently.
I think it's like 2 wins and 2 or something.
Yeah, they're I think they're 1 or 2 points from safety now. So
and how many get relegated? 4 get relegated, right?
Yeah, 4 get relegated. Yeah.
That's a lot of teams to go down in one season. That's a lot.
Yeah, which makes it quite tough. Like the National League and National League North and South, they're tough leagues. Not many promotion places, and a lot go down. So yeah,
isn't that going to be changed though? Isn't the promotion things going to be changed soon? Where they're going to have more teams? Is that right?
I think the National Leagues have put in a bid of some sorts to change that. Yeah, to make it 3 go up. Yeah,
because that's so. Somewhat massive. So 4 go down, but only 2 go up.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think, how does that even work? So how many teams do 4 teams then come up, right?
Yeah. So the 2 from the north, 2 from the south.
Oh yeah, of course it would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we always do on the channel, on the podcast, we like to, build you a FIFA card. Not literally. I think some people in the past have taken it quite literally.
Yeah. Okay.
But, so it's just, a way to see how you compare yourselves against the rest. So there's 6 statistics. Do you play FIFA? I'm guessing you do.
Yeah. Not so much anymore, but yeah.
You're too busy with the football. Okay, let's start off with pace. What would that be?
Oh, geez. I would probably say like 73.
Okay, that's good. That's good
Yeah,
for a left back.
that's
Shooting.
right. Shooting. Oh dear. Depends who you ask. It's all right. It depends on the day as well, really.
Okay,
I'd probably say 58.
58. Okay,
Yeah.
I like when you do this. I like the 53s, the 58s. I don't like the 75s and the 80s. I don't like the 5s and the 0s. So let's
No,
give
no.
passing. What would that be?
Passing. Okay. That's up there with probably my better stat. I'd okay. I was gonna say 75, but I'll go 76.
Okay,
Yeah.
dribbling. What would that be?
Dribbling. It would be oh dear. Dribbling. It's probably better than my shooting. I'd go 60.
60.
60.
Defending as a left back.
Defending. Oh dear. Okay. What did I say for passing? 75, 76.
Yes.
Defending, I'd probably go 74.
74. And last
Yeah.
but not least, I suppose the New Zealand comes into this a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Physicality.
Physicality. I think it's up there. Like for my stats, I'd put it at probably 79.
Okay, I think that's a good FIFA card.
I'm trying to be modest, but also like rate myself a little bit,
Of course. Well, Lewis, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today about your whole career, spanning from promotions, back to back promotions, playing in the National League North and South. And I absolutely thank you for coming on today.
No, thank you for having me. I
No
appreciate it.
worries whatsoever.